as everybody filters in. Oh, how about that? That's not tacos, but this is live TV. You just heard my doorbell.
Oh my God. Why did we not think of getting everyone delivery tacos during this?
Oh my gosh, you're right.
How did we mess that up so bad?
We should have coordinated. Oh my goodness.
Such a missed opportunity.
I would not have complained about that.
Oh man. Like the equivalent of that place that got everyone pizzas when we did that company event. No, like they got everyone local pizza, but tacos.
Please not like that.
Hey, everybody who is joining us. I'm not sure how many of you have been to Zoom webinars before, but one thing you will want to do is change in the chat box. There's a to, and it probably starts by saying to hosts and panelists, and you want to say it's to everyone, so that everyone can see what you're saying. And if you can see and hear me, I would just love to just get a hello in the chat. I misspelled it. I put a jello in it.
Or a jello.
Jello. Jello, everyone.
You like it.
Oh. All right. Yeah, welcome. We usually dive in pretty fast. We're here 2 minutes after the hour. And I think we're just gonna dive into our session today. Typically, we have some more attendees who continue to filter in, which is great. But you know what I would love to hear, and I think we've got a poll loaded up here. I don't have the button for the poll. There we are. Thank you, Brittany, who has the host permissions to do that. Yes, please tell us whether you are a return visitor to MCAT webinar land, or whether you are back for more, because this is our 4th in series. Probably not our last, our 4th of this particular series. When we get to the end, talk about where our webinar world is going for Sketchy over the next few weeks, which will be a little bit different than what it has been, but we do plan to continue to have fun. So here we are. All right, we got about a 60-40 split, which I think everyone can see. Welcome, everyone's here for the first time. Welcome back if you are back for more. And especially for those of you who are here for the first time, which is most of you, I would love to see one of two things in the chat. If you don't know very much about Sketchy and how Sketchy works, give me a 1 in the chat. If you do know a lot about how Sketchy works and you're here to just follow up, be part of the community, give me a 2 in the chat. Cool, awesome. Love to see the mix. That just helps. I don't know. It's helpful to know, kind of like the mindset of everyone who is here and around 1.5. I love the precision, Malika. Good stuff. So today is going to be the first time we cover organic chemistry in one of these study webinars. Everyone's favorite subject, right?
Do you hear how much enthusiasm he put on the words organic chemistry there? Do you know how long he practiced saying it that way before he could get that tone in his voice?
I do have an acting degree, but yeah, you're right. It takes practice.
I'm just kidding, Jen. We all love Orgo.
I know.
Well, Jen has convinced us to love Orgo, and that is what we actually have going today. We have a fun, we always try to dig into the well of puns for good titles. There will be a taco bar here covering some MCatering. But yeah, let's talk about who's with us here today. Not only do we have some of the Sketchy crew, but we also have not one, but 2 special guests today who are going to help walk us through everything. And we're going to go through a little bit of introductions of some true facts and some fun facts and some overlap between the two. My name's Adam Gray. I was Sketchy's first MCAT employee when we first started building MCAT things about 1.5 years ago, and we've been seeing it through ever since. And my fun fact, which is a long story that I won't bore everyone with, but the short version is I did a very embarrassing thing at a birthday party once. But it was very specific. like the sort of thing like not a lot of people would think about. And then that exact specific thing was in an episode of Community about 6 months later. So I think maybe someone knew someone who wrote for that show at that party. And maybe in future webinars, I can drip feed the rest of the details of that. But Jen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Jen Vioria, and I teach organic chemistry and other kinds of chemistry because that's what my PhD is in. My fun fact is actually about the little lanyard that's around my neck in that photo. That is an official KeyForge collectible trading card game lanyard. My husband is a complete board game, trading card game nerd, and he somehow got me into it. And I actually won a local tournament of the KeyForge collectible trading card game. And that was my prize. And I still wear it because I'm so proud.
Do you value that or your PhD more highly?
Definitely the KeyForge lanyard. Don't tell my graduate advisor.
Rachel, you're back for more after our physics session last week.
Oh yeah. So I am a creative story developer with Sketchy, kind of working on all aspects of the creative process that goes into the sketches. If you were here last week, my fun fact when we were working on physics was that I took physics pass-fail and did not go to the final. But this week we're doing organic chemistry, and I actually liked Orgo, and I went to the finals and everything, did the homework, all that, which maybe is not that common to actually enjoy. And my other fun fact is that we're going to be talking about tacos today, and I have tacos on my way to me right now, which is very exciting.
And I forgot to ask Jen, but also, what is your favorite taco, Rachel?
Usually a chicken tinga, I think.
All right, we got a vote for tinga. Jen, I didn't ask you what is your favorite taco?
My favorite taco is the taco cat. You guys seen the taco cat video? It's so great. It's got a little song about taco cat. It's a palindrome. It's a great song. You should look it up.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, you're right. Mine is fish tacos. I have a rule that I have to order fish tacos first time I go to any restaurant that has fish tacos. Very simple rule. And I got to get that. And also, as we finish, as we get into here, we know that we want to know what all of your favorite tacos are as well. So please throw that in the chat. We thought about making it a poll question, but there were too many options to make it multiple choices. So if you can tell us what your favorite taco flavor is, we want to hear about it. Ben, how about you?
That fish taco roll sounds like it could lead to some interesting gastrointestinal outcomes.
It's not like I ordered 10 of them.
I am Ben. I'm the creative director here at Sketchy. I used to be a urologist, but now I make cartoons for you guys. This lesson, as you'll see, takes place in the dining hall. And my little fun fact is that in college, I only ever made it up for breakfast in the dining hall one time. I was always asleep until breakfast was over. The only reason that I made it to breakfast is because I hadn't gone to sleep yet. I miss those days.
Wow.
My favorite taco is any taco from this place called Avenue 26 Tacos in LA. So good.
All right, we have Ricardo in the chat who's never had a taco, and I'm really glad that you are willing to admit that to us. That's actually very personal. So thank you, Ricardo. Kat, talk to us about yourself and your favorite tacos.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Kat. I am an MCAT instructor at Blueprint, which is a test prep company that you'll be hearing a little bit about in a few moments here. I'm going to be starting medical school at Stanford this fall. And I, kind of fun fact, accidentally ate a rare Oreo that could have sold for $15,000. Oreo did a collaboration with Pokemon for a little bit. So shout out Trading Card Games, Jen. I pulled the rarest Oreo in the pack. And I was like, wow, cool, I pulled the rarest one. Ate it because it's just a cookie, right? And then looked up later how much it had actually sold for on eBay, and it was up to $15,000. So that was a bummer. That was a lot of my med school tuition. So.
Was it a good Oreo?
I think the only difference was that there was a little Mew creature on it, but yeah, speaking of, food, my favorite taco recently, I've been loving these like grilled pineapple and bacon tacos at a little taqueria near me. So it's gotta be the favorite.
Wow. Grilled pineapple. My goodness. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, we already did a little bit of intro here. We're going to get into our lesson for stereoisomers. But we do want to talk about, I said we got two special guests. Jen is our organic chemistry specialist here at Sketchy, helped us make a lot of these lessons. Kat is here from Blueprint, who is one of our partners in the MCAT world. And so happy to have her there. I want to talk a little bit about Sketchy, a little bit about Blueprint before we really get into it. Ben, I'll throw this over to you about what is Sketchy in general.
Yeah, what is Sketchy? So hopefully the pictures kind of give you the clue that this is Sketchy, the visual learning platform. We make all this awesome art that helps you remember tons of complex concepts in biochemistry and chemistry, and today organic chemistry, among many other things. It's been used by more than 400,000 students, particularly med students, which is where we started. And people in med school love it. When I was a med student, I used Sketchy. I loved it. And they love it for many reasons. It's fun. It saves you time. It makes studying not such an awful process, but mostly because it helps you do better on the test, which is what we all want to do. So that's Sketchy in 2 hotspots.
Oh, we missed oh yeah. Well, maybe we don't. I think you put it really, really good last time, Ben, which is if you have a radial pulse, Sketchy can work for you. Just check your wrist, right?
Yeah, if you're breathing, Sketchy will work for you. Everyone's a visual learner, whether or not you think of yourself that way. So if you want to remember stuff quickly and retain it forever and actually have fun while you're studying, I know that sounds difficult, but I swear it's possible. Then Sketchy is for you.
Right. Kat, throw it over to you. Talk a little bit about, like I said, our special guest partner Blueprint today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I recommend all of you go check out Blueprint if you're in the market for some test prep resources. But in brief, Blueprint's pretty awesome because it provides really customizable study content. One of my favorite things is a very customizable study planner tool where it'll lay it all out for you, but you can also drag and drop, move your assignments and things like that around. Like Sketchy, we really believe that students learn better when they're actively engaged and having a lot of fun while learning. And so I think this is a really great partnership between us. So all of our content, all of our information is designed to be really interactive and engaging. And we also employ a lot of like visual learning techniques as well. We have a lot of 99th percentile instructors who provide a lot of these different resources. Our online course, live online course, was actually just ranked the best in the test prep game. So again, I recommend you checking that out. And our full length exams are also considered to be the most representative, the second best practice exams, only second to the AAMC, who actually host the MCAT itself. So.
And that's why we actually have a bundle if you are looking into either Blueprint or Sketchy. If you would like to get Blueprint's full length exams and a subscription to Sketchy, we will give you a deal. A little more on that later though. And yeah, let's talk about the lesson we're going to get into today. This is a little screenshot of what the Sketchy product looks like. We cover all of the different sciences that are relevant to the MCAT, and we are, we're getting there. We might even get cars in there someday soon as a little preview. We're thinking about it. And this is from our General Principles of Organic Chemistry unit, Stereoisomers. And there's a little preview of a fellow that we're going to meet pretty soon. And here's our backdrop. Ben, what is our backdrop for organic chemistry course as a whole?
Yeah, so if this looks like your college dining hall emptied out of its people and foodstuffs, that's what it's supposed to be. So within the MCAT program here at Sketchy, each course is themed differently so that we can quickly jump back into those worlds. So we have Sketchyland, our amusement park for biochemistry, and we go to space and we take you into fantasy lands. For organic chemistry, you're staying a little closer to home, and it's set at college. And as hopefully you'll see, college is actually a surprisingly good place to do some organic chemistry. There's lots of alcohols and bonding and other things going on. So there we go.
All right. And with that, we're going to start filling in our sketch. And I want to throw things over to really just all of our experts to talk about things. Rachel, I don't know if you want to get started to talk about our first symbol here and where we're getting started with stereoisomers.
Yeah, so just kind of to set the scene here a little bit beyond being in the dining hall, if it's been a minute since you took organic chemistry, which I'm sure it has for some of you, just to jog your memory, stereoisomers are basically any molecule or any set of molecules that all contain the exact same atoms, the exact same bonds to each other, but they have a different spatial arrangement of those atoms. And so in this sketch in particular, we're focusing on looking at different chiral centers in the atom. So that is what our first symbol here is, our little taco setup. Definitely looks way better than anything that was in my dining hall in college, but we won't dwell on that. And so we're kind of the first part of the sketch, we're going to be looking at how, if you have a chiral center, how you determine if it's R or if it's S. Then we'll kind of zoom out and talk about the whole molecule and how you evaluate stereoisomers from there. So this big chunk of C pork in the middle, that represents our chiral carbon, which is at the very middle of every chiral carbon or chiral center, which you might also hear called a stereocenter, but it's the same thing. And what makes a chiral center is having that carbon that's bonded to 4 different things. So you can see around our big al pastor spit, we've got 4 different taco toppings. We've got meat, guacamole, salsa, and cilantro. And similarly, we see like our little example molecule, we've got a hydrogen, a chlorine, a methyl, and an ethyl group. So 4 different things, that makes it chiral. And then we're going to talk about basically when you have a chiral center, any chiral center you should be able to designate as R or S, which is basically just telling you which way that center is rotating light. And we're just going to walk through some of the steps you take to assign that designation. So first up, you might have noticed these little tabs popped up with numbers next to our topping. And that is to tell you how to assemble your taco, because it's a very important art and you don't want to do it wrong. So we've got the ingredients here labeled from heaviest to least heavy. So it goes meat, guac, salsa, cilantro. And similarly, when you start out assigning chirality, you want to label all of the groups bonded to your chiral carbon in order of how heavy they are. So over here, we've got chlorine is number 1, because that is the heaviest thing bonded to that carbon. And it's important to note that it's really just the weight of the heaviest group element. It doesn't matter how big it is. So like, for example, that chlorine is heavier than carbon. So it's 1, even though that ethyl group is like much larger with more atoms in it. And so then once you've got your order there, your 1, 2, 3, 4, you need to, one caveat you need to make sure you keep in mind, you might have seen that little bowl of hash browns popped up next to the cilantro. Not typical at a taco bar, but that's okay. That's to remind you that when you are setting up your chiral center, you want to make sure that your lightest atom is on a hashed wedge going back. And so that means if it's on like the thick wedge or it's on a line, just do a little flipperoo with another atom to make sure it is on that hashed wedge. But just don't forget that you did that, because we will get back to that later.
That's the technical organic chemistry term, right? Do a little flipperoo.
Yeah, flipperoo, switcheroni.
Switcheroni. Save that for tonight.
Oh, in that case, the symbol should have been macaroni, right? So Jen, I think you can confirm for us that it is indeed called a switcheroni, correct?
It is. So in my class, we talk a lot about that Missy Elliott song, the one where you, is it worth it? Let me work it. And then you flip it and reverse it. That's our methodology. So, so we don't use the switcheroni, we use the flip it and reverse it technique, but I think they're completely parallel.
The Missy method. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you assign R and S. So, so you've got your priorities assigned. You've got your heaviest atom is number 1. And you're just looking at the points of attachment, that first atom that's attached. Here we've got chlorine is our heaviest first attachment atom. And then we've got number 2 is our ethyl group. Number 3 is our methyl group. We decided that because the hydrogens on the CH3 are lower priority than the other carbon on that ethyl group. And then we got our little lowly hydrogen, little orange hash brown on the wedge going back. Okay, so now what you do is, as long as your hash brown is in the back, you do a little curved line that goes from 1 to 2 to 3. So sort of like this guy is walking around the buffet bar in the correct order. He is walking from number 1, his heaviest meat, to number 2, his guacamole, to number 3, his salsa. So he's doing it right. And if you follow his path, okay, let's see, he's going counterclockwise, which at the top of the clock is left. I don't know if it's left on your screen, but to me it's left. And that's S. So if you're going counterclockwise or left at the top of the clock, you call that thing S. And I think we need to bring in another character here. Yeah, okay. If you go from 1 to 2 to 3 and you end up going the other way, can I get in the chat window any guesses how we would indicate something going the other way? I'll give you a hint. It is not S. You are R for right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So if it goes the other way, it's not S, it's R. And if you're looking at the top of the clock, you're going right from the top of the clock, or you're going counterclockwise. Okay. And then this character, what you might notice is she's got some hash browns on her tray. That's there to remind you that if you have been given a structure where your number 4 priority group doesn't happen to be on the back, you can still do the R to S, or sorry, the 1, 2, 3 clockwise, counterclockwise thing. You're just going to reverse, or Missy Elliott, flip and reverse your assignment. So if it looked like it would be R, it turns out it's actually S. And that's what you do when your hydrogen's coming out instead of going back. All right. I think we're ready to move on to our next symbol.
Well, I want to spend a moment at least talking about the fact that the signs on the floor don't actually say left and right.
Oh, yeah.
We had a whole conversation earlier with Jen about how those wily organic chemists couldn't just make it normal. They had to pick Sleft as a new direction. That's what it stands for, right? S is for Sleft.
And Ricardo actually in the chat window has got a terrific question, which is, what if the lowest is on the plane? And I think the first thing I will tell you is that is the moment when you swear briefly, because those are always a little harder to do. Whenever I want to write a stumper question on my test, I'll put the hydrogen in the plane and just be like, yeah, sorry guys. Okay, so when hydrogen is in the plane, what you do is you switch hydrogen with whatever was on the wedge, okay? Or whatever was, sorry, going back on the dashed wedge, the hash brown, okay? So you switch it there, and then you assign your priorities to that new picture you drew, okay? And then you just remember the picture you drew is the flipped reverse of what it ought to be. So your rule of thumb is any swap will give you the opposite. So if you swap once, you've just turned R into S, and you've made it easier to assign. But now you assign S and you say, okay, I swapped it, so it must be R. But those are always the hardest to draw. It's hard to do that without redrawing it. When it's coming out or going back, you can do it without redrawing it. But when it's on the plane, you usually have to redraw it.
I know for
And
me.
one thing that's really great, one thing that's great about the MCAT is, they expect us to know a lot of content, right? So it's really wide. It's not that deep. And that means typically they're going to give you some pretty straightforward questions about a lot of different topics. I have yet to see a situation where they would give you a stereocenter with the hydrogen on the plane and ask you to change that. So that should be reassuring. But thanks, Jen, for a wonderful and simplified explanation of how to do that if that did show up.
Yeah, and thanks, Ricardo, for throwing a question in the chat. This is it's been true for every one of these sessions, true for this one as well. You got questions, just throw them in the chat. We'll generally just answer them as we go. This is relatively free form. We're just all hanging out here, and we'd love to answer clarifying questions. We may save some of them until the end. You can also put them in the Q&A function in Zoom, and we'll get to those as well. So please throw any questions you have out there. But yeah, I have to say, from back in the day when I was first learning organic chemistry, I thought it was like magic. And I thought maybe someone was tricking me with the fact that, no, if you just swap two molecules, it's always going to switch from S to R or from R to S. Like, I just had to take that on faith. And eventually that bothered me so much that I actually ran through 4 or 5 different examples in a row of does it really work that way? Does it really work that way? Does it really, I used the sort of 3-dimensional thing, and I did it. But you don't have to. Really, you can take it on faith. It does work that way. So I swear. And this, I think, gets us to our next little featured fellow who we were talking about this earlier, and I started calling him Mr. Camaro Mustache, and that does seem to be fitting. And Kat, I would love to hear you talk about what's going on here at the top of the sketch with this new fellow.
Yeah, so far we've been talking about individual stereocenters, kind of what's on the plate itself. But now we'll talk about the differences if we're comparing 2 different molecules and we're looking at the stereochemical relationship between the 2 molecules. And so the first we will talk about are our stereoisomers here. And we are looking at non-superimposable mirror images. Does anyone know what these are called? You got a little hint on the shirt here. Might be a tricky hint. If something is a non-superimposable mirror image, it's an enantiomer exactly. And some of you are like, what the heck is a non-superimposable mirror image? That's a long word, a lot going on there. A great example are your hands. So your hands are mirror images of each other, but no matter what direction you turn your hands, you cannot get them to line up. You cannot get them to be the exact same thing. So the same thing is happening with our stereocenters. We cannot get them to be the exact same thing unless we actually break bonds. So they're mirror images, but we cannot make them the same thing. In order to be enantiomers here, they have to be different at every single stereocenter. So if it just has one stereocenter, one of our molecules would be S, and one of our molecules would be R at that stereocenter. So you can kind of see that in the reflection on the shirt, which is pretty fun here. But if we have multiple stereocenters, so example, if we had S, S, and R in order in our stereocenters, our other molecule, in order to be an enantiomer, would have to be opposite at every single stereocenter. So it would be R, R, and S.
And I think we can talk a little bit about the reason why this fellow helps us remember this. Like you said, Kat, he's got ant on his shirt. Go Ants, which I guess is that consistent, by the way, Rachel and Ben, through the entire, are ants the mascot of the college of the organic chemistry course?
They are when enantiomers come up, I guess is the answer.
Awesome.
I think every D1 team at this college has a different mascot.
Oh, okay, that works. Yeah. And we do, I'm surprised nobody's mentioned it in the chat yet. But yeah, if this was actually a mirror in reality, you probably wouldn't be able to read the words in the mirror. We're just gonna have to suspend your disbelief for the sake of the art and for the sake of the learning. We had a little exercise on which things actually are mirrored in this versus which ones aren't. The fork is mirrored. That's what we were able to find out.
Ben had a great suggestion that this is actually his twin just walking in front of a window. So it's not really a mirror image.
His twin who likes a different sports team.
Twin.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, do identical twins always have the same handedness? I guess maybe that's just for a different lesson in the future.
I am a stepmom to two. They are mirror image twins, actually. So they look identical, but their hair naturally parts on opposite sides of their head. They are mirror images of each other. It's a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And non-superimposable.
Yes. Although sometimes they try.
Kids are
They're
enamored of each other. Oh man, that's totally an episode of like a cartoon or something. All right, well, let's move out to, we got a couple more symbols on the way here. And Kat, if you want to finish the story of multiple chiral centers.
Yeah, so our next one is diastereomers. I think this is pretty funny that we've got two. So they're stereos, which is what this guy here is holding up. And as we can see, these stereos aren't exact replicas of each other. They're not mirror images. They're not the same. We have different antenna sizes. That's a good reminder that diastereomers are different at least one stereo center. So in order to be a diastereomer, we have to have the same orientation at one stereo center. So either both R or both S, and different orientation at least one stereo center. So quick question for you all. Can we have a diastereomer with one stereo center? No, exactly. We need at least one that is the same and at least one that is different. So we could have like RSR and RSS. That would be a diastereomer for you.
Right, and that brings us to, I think this one is the real crowd pleaser of the entire thing here. And Jen, you had mentioned that this is one of your favorites. So what's going on here?
Indeed, I love miso soup. Just love, love, love it. I also love this image. So, I'm going to throw this out to you, the attendees. Do you notice anything interesting about this bowl of miso soup as y'all are looking at it? How does it look to you? Like particularly the chopsticks. Yeah, Muriel all over it. Or is that?
I think we may have had an internet hiccup for Jen. Either that or
I think Jen's just holding very.
Or maybe Mirel, your name is a glitch in the matrix, and when it combined with like the walls of Jen's room, it like resonated in such a way that like I hope she's okay. That's what
I think that's a good theory. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a.
Hey, can you hear me now?
We're back.
Yeah,
Yay.
My internet connection was unstable. So that might be because there are 4 gentlemen in the house playing video games right now. I'm not sure though. Could be. So I don't know. Okay, so we've gotten that the miso soup is very symmetrical. So super job in the chat window. And I don't know where I cut out here, but miso compounds are super symmetrical. So that's one of the first things you're going to notice about them. So what does it mean to be meso? So meso is a lot of things. First thing is, as you're going to see in this little diagram here, you see this internal dashed line. That is an internal mirror plane, right? So one side of the molecule reflects perfectly on the other side of the molecule. So if the left side said go ants, the right side would say augstna or something, right? So it's like perfectly reflecting on either side of that plane, that internal mirror plane. Okay, so, and you can see that in this compound, just like the chopsticks in the bowl in the symbol, okay? The thing that's interesting about meso compounds, though, is that they contain internally within them asymmetric carbons. Okay, and as we started out at the very beginning of the lesson, we saw that an asymmetric carbon is a carbon that has 4 different things. So it's got a meat, a guac, a salsa, a cilantro, 4 completely different things. So in a meso compound, you have you have 2 or more of these. And you also have this kind of internal element of symmetry. So you've got asymmetry and symmetry all built together as one. Okay, so that can be a little bit confusing. Okay, meso compounds, because they contain this internal mirror plane, they're not actually chiral. So that's interesting. If you were to take this picture and just chop it in half, right? So let's say I just took the left half. So I just had a methyl, a carbon, a chlorine, a hydrogen, and like half a stick, okay? That thing by itself would be chiral, which would mean, like my hand, it's not superimposable on its mirror image, right? But now if you take these two chiral things and you kind of stick them together, right? All of a sudden you have something that is superimposable on its mirror image. And that's what a meso compound is. So meso compounds, the really key thing you're going to look for is this internal mirror plane and the presence of the asymmetric centers. And then you get an achiral object. And the things about achiral objects is they don't rotate plane polarized light. So they are what we call optically inactive. There's all sorts of other stuff about them. So quick question. What if I took, I love the meso, y'all. That's great. What if I took on the right-hand side, instead of a CH3 group going down there, I turned that into an ethyl group. So CH2, CH3. Would this molecule still be meso? Yes or no in the chat window? Yeah, all over it.
Too good.
Lots of answers. No's. No, 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 no. So again, this might not appear on the MCAT because it might be too tricky, but evil tricks of organic chemistry professors, one of my favorites is just make a slight modification off to one side and just break the symmetry a little bit. If you break the symmetry a little bit, break the internal mirror plane and you are no longer meso. I think that's all I've got to say about miso soup, other than it's just so delicious.
Yeah, you can get a symmetrical bowl of miso soup, or you could just order 2 miso soups. Sometimes I just go with it.
That's true.
That could work too. So we are not quite done yet because, and this is a question we've gotten, I think, more commonly than anything else in these webinars is, okay, Sketchy is fun. We like this. It's a cool way to get engaged with this content and review it. But how does the studying actually work? And so we just like to revisit this and say, like, so in the Sketchy product, there is a video, and it's a single recorded video. It's not with a single voiceover with the script. We have sort of talked through all of the elements of it, but in the product itself is a video. You watch that once, but then you can come back to it over and over again with our review card, which essentially highlights every major image to kind of refresh your memory. And the whole point of Sketchy is that you don't have to come back to it all that many times relative to maybe how many times you need to review something out of a textbook or something like that. And so that's what lets you come back to it. But then there's application where you want to ask yourself questions. And actually, I would say for MCAT prep, there is a fourth bucket here, which is you eventually need to take that to full-length realistic MCAT practice in places like blueprint exams or AMC exams or other kind of realistic MCAT practice before you take the real test. But in order to embody this, we do want to throw a real question here at the end of the session. And since this is what you do every day, Kat, I'm going to throw it over to you to guide us all through this question and see if we can get it right.
Absolutely. So we're being asked which of the following is true for meso compounds. And this is a Roman numeral question. And Roman numerals come up a lot on the MCAT. A lot of students don't like them at first because it looks like a lot of work. But a lot of us instructors actually love Roman numeral questions because there's a ton of strategy we can use. And sometimes we don't actually really need to know too much content, which is awesome. So when we approach Roman numeral questions, one of the first things to do before even reading any of the answer choices or the Roman numeral answers here, we actually want to check our ABCD answer choices and see what things are happening. You'd be surprised, sometimes one Roman numeral will be in all 4 answer choices. And if that's the case, we don't even need to take a look at what that means or verify it, which is awesome. The other thing we want to look for is if anything comes up exactly twice, because statistically, that's going to be our best bet. It's going to help us narrow down to a 50-50 chance as long as we can verify that thing. So from a strategy standpoint, that's how we want to tackle our Roman numeral questions. Now, the next thing you always want to ask yourself are either of these like either the same or opposites? So there are a lot of options we could go with here. But one of my favorite things about Roman numeral questions is if we didn't know anything about a meso compound, maybe we totally forgot what that was, we can't remember the difference between that or a diastereomer, there are some other ways we could get to the right answer here. So if we paid attention to Jen earlier, and we looked at Roman numeral 4, okay, achiral, and we looked at Roman numeral 1, optically active and rotate polarized light. Can these both be true? No, they cannot both be true, exactly. And so that can be a helpful tool. We're gonna need something with either, well, that actually doesn't help us too much in this case because they're all indifferences. But those can be helpful things to look at to narrow down our answers. If something is achiral, what does that mean about 2, an internal plane of symmetry? Are these saying different things or the same things? Internal plane of symmetry, that's going to give us an achiral compound, right? If we remember our meso soup, those are achiral, has that internal plane of symmetry. And so both 2 and 4 either both have to be in an answer choice or they're both separate. So again, those are some strategy ways to look at these Roman numerals. Now, of course, we were just refreshed on meso compounds. I saw a lot of D's in the chat earlier, which is our correct answer here. If they have an internal plane of symmetry, right, that mirrored tofu here, then both 2 and 4 are correct. We don't even need to look at 3 and we have our right answer. But this also has to have a chiral center in order to be considered a meso compound.
Yeah, love that logic there, that essentially 2 implies 4 here. So if you have 2, you also have to have 4, or else the answer itself is intrinsically wrong. So A and C, you gotta chuck them. That's a lot of fun.
Exactly. There are often like 2 or 3 different ways to get to the right answer with Roman numeral questions. And a lot of times the MCAT will very intentionally give you shortcuts to take because every single question is designed to be solved in under a minute, even if they look really intimidating. So definitely keep that in mind.
So true. Well, all right. We are getting to our kind of last 15 minutes of our scheduled time here. And there are a couple more things we want to do, including giving away a free Sketchy and Blueprint bundle to somebody who is here today. So please stick around for that. But we'd love to spend a little time on Q&A. I want to give it just a minute for anyone who's been thinking of questions or has something you want to ask anyone here. And does it have to be about this particular session? No, I would say little bit of, hey, we've got some real MCAT experts and chemistry experts and science experts and Sketchy folks here. So throw some questions in the chat or in the Q&A function. And I can actually answer the first one here, which is, are all the MCAT content available through Sketchy website? And the answer depends on exactly, Duyan, depends on exactly what you mean by each of those words. I will say all of Sketchy's MCAT material is available from our website. That is how you will get to it. We are just sketchy.com. We actually have a one-word English word.com. We actually had to fight some guy for it, actually, for like 2 years. But we got it. And so if you don't already have a free trial or a subscription with us, you really ought to go check us out. And that is going to be the main portal for that. But if the question is all possible MCAT content you would ever see, do we have Sketchy lessons for everything? The answer for that is no, asterisk. And I'll explain both sides of that. What we do have is over 250 lessons, and we're releasing more every month. So we got some heft. There's a lot of material. You just saw one, and there's 250 things of that size or larger in the product. And what we've done in building this course is we've worked from the highest yield subjects in terms of points on the MCAT, and we just worked our way down. And so at this point, you know, the next lesson that we're missing is the 251st most important question. So We got a lot of the most important stuff. And also, as Kat, I would love to hear your input on how you think about this as well. But the way I have always thought about it is there is no such thing as is all the MCAT content there, because all the MCAT content is 7 years of science classes, technically. If you look at the AAMC's breakdown document that only about 7 people have read, though maybe 3 of those people are in the room right now. It's just everything, but we know what they actually test, because there are certain things you can and can't test more easily. There are certain things that correlate with psychometric performance better and worse, and they've proven that by the tests they themselves have released, and they've shown which things they test more and less often. So yeah, Kat, I'd love to hear what you think about that too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think the other piece there is it is challenging, like initially, to know how much depth the MCAT expects you to know on each topic. And I think it's always good to err on the side of like understanding the fundamental basic topics, understanding the main ideas, not getting too bogged down in the details, and then doing a lot of practice problems. So I will tell you with confidence, everything we covered with stereoisomers today, that is all you need to know for the MCAT. You will have to apply it in different ways, but you won't need to know any additional details than what we just covered. And I would say that's true for a lot of the content. Again, I know I've said this before, but the MCAT is very wide. It covers a ton of different information, but not in a lot of detail. And the other main piece of this, and I see some questions coming up as well about passage work and application, but ultimately the MCAT is an application-based test. The content, that's an expectation. You're expected to know the content, but the content isn't ultimately what is going to get you higher scores and score increases. It is the strategies and the ability to apply that content to new situations. And so once you know the content, it is really essential to do a lot of practice problems and get used to how the MCAT tests different material.
Yeah, I'm actually going to run a little bit of, I think this is going to work properly. Hold on. I'm going to move between browser windows, dragging things along. Do you all see a different window now? When you see the screen share? Okay. So there are a couple questions that came in that I can answer kind of one after the other. One of them was, can I get a transcript so I can do a fill in the blank? And the answer to that is the way that our scripts are written. I will say transcripts for sketchy videos are probably not the most useful thing that you might be imagining, because of the way that we structure the ideas, and there are kind of jokes in the middle of them and so on. And so the transcript itself, all the videos are closed captioned, so like that's there, but the transcript itself is a little bit less useful than this, which is how the review card works. So this is what we've built in order to get that need of that you're asking for, which is, this is the review card. You would get to it by, if you look at, like, you look at this here, this is the button that plays a video. This is the button that lets you review the symbols with the review card. And so you can see this symbol number 1, it shows the C spit in the different toppings, but then you can look for where the number 2 is, and you can say, oh yeah, that arrow on the ground, that represents right, and then the Sleft arrow represents left. And then you can predict that and then click the button and be like, oh yeah, that's what the symbol was. So that idea of testing yourself on every symbol, that's precisely what this is built for. We're working on a few other fun ways to potentially do that farther in the future, blah, blah, but this is also that's how you do that. I also want to feature something. Somebody asked, how can we think about MCAT passages? Because the content is one thing and passages are another. And we have done a little bit of that within Sketchy, and there are a few examples, and I believe some of these are even part of the free trial if you want to check it out on the website and make an account. But we have made some MCAT passage walkthroughs, which essentially do kind of what we saw for the practice question here, where like the answer to the practice question shows the answer along with the symbol next to it. That is, when you see a question like this, you'll think of the symbol. We have a passage walkthrough that shows you what it feels like to get questions right when you know the content with Sketchy. And so this walks through this particular passage, which happens to be about these poor rats who had their hearts taken out of their bodies and they were given heart attacks. It was not fun for the rats, but it was good for science, I think. So when you see every element of that, when you see every question, you'll remember these particular parts of biochemistry and respiration and so on. And so, yeah, recommend checking that out for sure.
One thing
Go ahead.
Just to quickly add on, Adam alluded to some exciting future developments, and he did this kind of funny hand motion. And if you want to find out more about this funny hand motion, we have a Discord, and maybe Brittany can throw the link in the chat, which is a place to hang out and talk about the MCAT and other stuff, but is also a place where you can help us provide feedback on some of those beta or alpha or whatever pre-alpha products we're working on. So one for the testing, the sort of testing yourself question that we just talked about, but check out the Discord for that and more.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat to our join link for the Discord, which is, just a community of honestly, a lot of med students over there too. So if all of you are just looking to, pick some brains of some med students, this is Sketchy wide. We really encourage you to come on over and hang out with us in the Discord. And of course, we feature events like this in the Discord, along with AMAs and other fun things. I think we're actually planning like a game night kind of soon. It's going to be pretty cool. So come on by and check that out. I want to get through a few other questions. One person asked, are there quizzes after each lesson? And the answer to that is not quite yet. There are quizzes after a lot of lessons, but we're building them out right now, and we're releasing more as we go. And actually, the quizzes are a big focus of what we are working on right now, but there are quizzes after many lessons. And there is still the option to do the quizzing of yourself with the symbols and the content with the review card. That's there for every lesson. And then is there an extension option? If you push back your MCAT, can you sign up for a shorter extension? The answer to that is yes. I believe the initial subscription purchase is only in 3 or 6 or 12-month increments, but for extensions or renewals, you can get them in 1-month increments afterwards. So that answers, Kaylee, I think, asked that question. And what I want to do is I do want to get back to a few more of these questions. How long are the Sketchy videos? Right now, I believe our Sketchy MCAT videos are 8 to 10 minutes on average. Rachel and Ben, I think you've seen a lot more of them pass in front of your eyes. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like 7 to 12 is the normal range, but probably closer to around 8 or 9 on average.
Yeah. Once they get a little longer than that, you can probably predict this. They get a little full. The canvas starts to get a little full, so we'll split them into 2 parts or something like that. Yeah,
the artists start complaining that we're making them draw too much stuff if we go much longer than that. So you got to keep them short to keep the artists happy.
Yeah, but bite-sized. Joshua is asking, when's the best time to use Sketchy? During content or when practicing questions? And the answer to that is, I mean, it's honestly both. Like, really, the reason why we try to, why we have the kind of length of subscriptions that we have is it's good to get at just the beginning of your study and then have it throughout. But it is something that, if in a perfect world, it should be something you do alongside your content study. That is, when you have when you have review books or textbooks that you're working out of, or when you have like a blueprint course, if you're going through and you've got things your teacher's covering and you've got the kind of like direct content videos there, that you kind of partner them with Sketchy to have another way to remember all that content, and then to reinforce it as you would review any other piece of content, as well as you could do questions in practice.
I think that actually really relates
ahead,
to Duyen's question as well, on how should the Sketchy videos be used in conjunction with the blueprint course. And I think this goes with a lot of things, but as Adam was just saying, I think the Sketchy videos are a really perfect tool or resource when you either want to dive into a certain topic that you might be struggling with a little bit more, or see content in a totally different way. And I think the more ways you can be exposed to thinking about a different topic, the more you're going to be able to kind of have the mental flexibility to apply that content to totally different scenarios. So I really recommend getting your content information in a few different forms, a few different mediums, because I think it increases your depth of knowledge, and it also can help with like answering questions or seeing passages and things like that.
All right, so we are getting close to our time here, and there are a couple more things. I know there are a couple questions that haven't been answered in the chat yet, and stick around. I will make sure to get every single question, but I do want to get through the, I do want to get through the rest of our regularly scheduled program pieces here. One of them is, these kinds of webinars and sessions, I mean, honestly, I think it shows we have fun doing them. We're really glad to be here doing them, but we also want to make sure you all are having fun and learning things in them. So Brittany just put in the chat a survey that shouldn't take long to fill out. And it is just a few questions about whether this was good use of your time, what you feel like you took away, any other feedback you have for us, because we really value that feedback in order to have these be as efficient and cool as possible, to be the sort of thing you want to tell your friends about and kind of hang out with us for 30 to 60 minutes every week, and continue holding these. So so go ahead and and we got a perfect bit.ly link for it, bit.ly MCAT study 413. So I'll let everyone, you can open that up in another browser window or something, or answer the questions, and we'll give that link again when we are done. But I do want to get to giveaway. All right, so we are going to give away a Sketchy and Blueprint bundle to someone here who wants to be a part of it. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. So in the chat, if you want to potentially win this, and maybe if you've already got a subscription or you don't want to be part of it, you don't have to put it, but in the chat, if you want to win this, put in the chat your name and your goal MCAT score. Put it in the chat right now, and I will pick at random one of you who enter in. I like people who are putting in 528. We'll talk about all right. Got a lot of these coming in, and don't worry, we'll scroll back up to find the last couple of questions that we didn't answer. We're done. Everyone, if you are entering, get that done. You're going to hear me clicking a little bit to get this into my little random thing that I'm going to do for this. So give me a second. All right. All right, get your last entry in. I'm going to shut it off right now. And our winner is Malika King 514. Malika, congratulations, or Melika. I'm not 100% sure the pronunciation, but I think I actually mentioned that you had a good taste in tacos. I swear I'm not biased. That was an absolute random selection, but congratulations. And for anyone else who still wants to check out Sketchy, still interested in it, still looking to potentially win a giveaway, you should come to future webinars, because we do want to keep doing this. But we really encourage you to head to the website, sketchy.com. You can sign up for a free trial. One of the questions that came up is what's included in the free trial. And what's included in the free trial is, I think it's a total of about 10 lessons. 10 lessons out of the total, along with review cards and quizzes. And what we've done is we've picked like one from each science subject, basically. So there's like one or two biochem, and there's a bio one for cell bio one for systems bio. Like we picked one from each, so you can get a little taste of how we approach every single one to check out as a free trial. Brittany's got a direct link for how you can sign up for that. And if you want to get a subscription to Sketchy, which of course we would love for you to join us, you can get 10% off with the code MCATstudy10, which is a special discount that we want to give. And that's 10% off the price that is shown on the website right now. We got one of those things where there's like a sticker price, but like that's not what it's 10% off what it actually says. This is what our subscription plans are. we have priced Sketchy so that it's something you can work into any prep plan you already have. If you have a comprehensive course, you can get Sketchy and it's not going to break your bank and make you pay for another whole comprehensive course on top of it. If you're piecing together your prep with books and full lengths and so on, this is also a good piece of that as well. You should look at and you will see this on our website. You go to it, you should look at our blueprint bundles. If you don't already have a source of full length exams, you need to have them in order to prep for the MCAT. It's absolutely necessary. And we know that Blueprint's exams are absolutely top notch. And we'd love for you to check out that bundle. Basically, if you get a full length bundle with Blueprint and then a Sketchy subscription, you get a discount off of both. And that's how this thing goes. All right. I do want to scroll back up at this point to get, I think there were like 1 or 2 additional questions. One of them was, have people improved their scores with Sketchy and Blueprint combined yet? Well, we know that people have improved their scores with Blueprint. I believe that was on one of the slides earlier, home of the 13-point score increase. Kat, I'm right about that, right? At least
you're right about
that's
that.
one I've seen, right? 13 points. Not that that's a maximum.
13 points and growing.
Yeah, and growing.
No, I've had students that have improved their scores like 25 plus points. So yeah, it's possible, but it takes work. It's not just going to happen just because you sign up. You have to put in the work.
And we know the same thing is true of Sketchy, is that people have improved their scores of Sketchy in that we have people who have gone, from like what I love to see really is the people who have been able to move from like the sub 500 range to like the above 508-ish range, because that's really the difference between like very, very nervous, I don't know if this is competitive at all, into really competitive. And we've had a lot of people who have crossed that threshold. That one just warms my heart. I love it.
It's a life-changing score increase. Absolutely.
Yeah. It makes a huge difference. Somebody asked about what the features in the Sketchy Blueprint bundle are and whether it involves the study calendar. And in fact, it does include Blueprint's study calendar. It allows you to put Sketchy videos into your Blueprint study calendar. If you have seen that study calendar before, it's a really great feature. It's really good stuff. And I think that is everything. We have really enjoyed spending this hour with all of you. We are going to do more of these webinars. I will tell you, for the next couple weeks, this is what we're looking at. Next week, we have not an MCAT study webinar, but a panel of residents, people who are currently residents, who are going to talk about their residency experiences with our head of medical education, Lauren, Dr. Lauren Fisher, DO, who is our head of medical education, is going to run a panel with some current residents. And so be on the lookout for that. That is going to be an event next week. And the week after that, we're looking for another collaboration with Blueprint. So we might just see Kat coming back and coming back a little bit more to this format, but maybe we'll also mix in a little bit more question practice. We'll see. So we are keeping this train rolling, and we would love for all of you who are here to come on back when there are more. And really, we want this to be a community. There's a reason these are totally free. And we want people who just want to hang out and nerd out about the MCAT a bit to just come on by. So please tell your friends, bring your friends, give us feedback through that feedback survey. Brittany gave the resident panel link, which is awesome. If you want to sign up for that, that's going to be really cool. By the way, I just a little preview, really preview, going to be cool. But I think that is everything. Really hope we see you in future webinars. Hope to see you as part of the Sketchy and Sketchy Blueprint family. Come on by, get some subscriptions, and really just go kick some butt on the MCAT, everyone. So applause to your future selves. For all of our other guests and panelists today, any final thoughts?
Thank you for having me. I think, I'm super excited about what you're doing at Sketchy. I think it's really great for students, and I'm excited to keep learning more about it.
Great. And
good luck to all of you.
Yeah, it's awesome to have folks who are in the classroom every day coming to join us for these. It's just so great to have that energy. So thanks so much.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm sold. I'll definitely be using this in med school. So
All right, hear that? Hear that?
Yes, you will.
All right. Bye, everyone, and thank you so much.